One guy comes up, he goes, look, I've been here for 10 years. All I do are behavioral homes. I thought I knew how to deal with the situation. This program not only has changed how I perceive what I do, when I do it, and how to do it, but it's changed the life in the home. He goes, my escalations in the home have gone down like 50 to 60% because I now know what to look for before things actually happen. I'm looking at the room with a different set of eyes. I'm hearing things from a different perspective because of the training, because of the mentorship. This has changed not only my life, but it's changed the life of my client. I was on a call with the same organization, COO, and this was a statewide call, and that is exactly what he said. He goes, come to one of our graduations and you decide if this is worth the time and the investment that you put in it.
Welcome to IDD Leader, where human services leaders grow their impact, lead with heart, and build the workplaces our field deserves. I'm your host, Nate Beers. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the show. Sometimes you hear a model that's working, and you're thinking to yourself, why did I never hear of this before? Because it's happening in another state or another part of the country. If you haven't heard of today's model, I think you're going to be incredibly intrigued. This is part 2 of my conversation with J.W. Gibbs. He runs a Department of Labor registered DSP apprenticeship program in the state of Missouri. And providers in this program are seeing retention rates up to 90%. The program just hit, I think it was about 560 active apprentices with, I think, approaching 300 graduates. They are starting to see the results. And today, you're going to hear the inner workings of how this thing works, the impact that it's having, and what DSPs and executives are saying about it. So without further ado, let's dive into part 2 of my conversation with J.W. Gibbs. Let's just suppose for a moment that I am like a chief people officer at an organization, and we're like, you know what? We got to do better. So we're looking for solutions. And somehow I got your phone number and I called you up and I'm trying to ask you, wait, how does this apprenticeship work? What's different about it than just like we already have a buddy mentor system for new hires. They're with them for the first, 3 months or whatever. How's this different? And, what's it take to actually to do it? Could you kind of start to walk me through some of that?
Yeah, you're getting down in the weeds a little bit, so I'm going to try to keep it as high level as possible. But the thing is that you don't have to start from ground zero. Okay, so what apprenticeship really does is it combines 3 key learning components together. And really if you look at the learning pyramid, it basically tells you that teaching another person has about 90% retention rate of the information and what was covered. And then if you allow them to practice it, practice creates about 75% retention rate, right? And then, discussion, classroom setting, just standard learning, online learning is about 50% retention. So as you continue to climb up that pyramid, right, if what you're doing right now, for example, is just online learning, right, you're probably going to have between 40 and 50% retention rate. That's not...
Let me interrupt you for a second. I think that's generous. That might be based on research, so I'm not arguing with your numbers, but I'll just tell you, when I've clicked through trainings, my retention rate is a lot lower than 50% on whatever I just clicked through. But okay, keep going. So we relate. I think anyone listening to this, we relate. Yes, it's totally different if someone, is teaching you like in a much interpersonally, and they're walking with you as you're demonstrating skills. Totally different. So keep going. But I like this though.
Yeah. So here's what I'm trying to say is, because how do you differentiate, right? I have organizations that I have talked to, for example, who are successfully using a particular learning tool. They are then combining it with a mentor, and that's where the vast majority of them don't recognize it, or they recognize it, but they choose not to fund it. And they can't get to that level of results that they're actually looking for, right? I've had very few but a few that I've talked to, and I've actually told them, because I'm not here to sell anybody. This is about educating people and organizations. It's like informed decision, right? But the reality of it is, I've had organizations call me, Jay, tell me what's going on. I tell them what's going on. They're like, well, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this. And I ask them, how are your results? And the results are great. And this is what we do. And da, da, da. And I'm like, you don't need me. You've got it. You're one of the few who have it, and you're doing fantastic. So keep doing what you're doing, because there is no silver bullet. So back to your example, person calls me on the phone. I'm like, look, in general, okay, this program, you don't have to start from ground zero. All of the documentation and that kind of stuff is out there. It's going to have to be amended to really reflect what you want to do to set this program up, right? And there is structure to it. There's got to be a commitment to give them a wage increase. DOL doesn't care if it's a penny or $1 or $10 an hour. The point is they have to have a reward for all the work that they have done, right? That's just kind of the general concept. But where apprenticeship really differentiates is, what are they doing? They are wrapping together those three components. They're wrapping together the one-on-one teaching opportunity. They're wrapping together with OJT, on the job training time, just that on the clock time, that person is practicing their things every single day with the classroom training, right? And part of what the Journey Worker does, at least here in the state of Missouri, is a competency checklist. So we have all the 69 skills that they need to learn. And this program is about, over time, them learning how to master each one of those skills. And when that checklist is done and they've gotten their classroom, all their classroom stuff is completed, and they've completed 2,000 hours, they're done. So what does that really do for you? Well, it eliminates guessing. When is this DSP really ready? Because you know the progress of where they're at. That person knows, that DSP knows that you've invested a lot. They're going to have typically a higher commitment level to the organization, which then ultimately results in the fact that you're losing fewer people. Because a mentoring program that lasts 90 days, let's be honest, you look at the NCI, National Core Indicator numbers, and it tells you we're losing 66% like in the first year of being a DSP. And that happens a big block, 30, 60, 90, 180 days, and then another big block 6 months down the road. So really what we've got to be focused on is the engagement with that DSP, really heavy in that first 12-month period, so that when we're looking at year 2 and year 3 and year 4, where we're still losing a pretty high percentage of DSPs, we can switch that from intensive care to more triage care, where we're interacting with them and we're just helping them stay ahead of the fact that, this is a high stress job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, you've painted a picture of it really well. And I think one of the things that strikes me, so I'm a behavior analyst, and so to become a board certified behavior analyst, you need a master's degree in within a pretty narrow range of a couple different slight tweaks, but basically in applied behavior analysis. It's an ever-growing number now of supervised fieldwork hours, which is, it sounds so similar to what you're talking about, but it's, kind of with that in clinical language, as, it comes kind of out of healthcare type setting. And then you have to pass a really, really hard test.
Didn't we all?
like the bar exam, but for behavior analysis. But in any case, so there's really those three components. So there's a classroom, but then those 2,000, I think it's up to 2,000. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing that I'm not knowing this in real time. But the supervised fieldwork hours, that's really where it becomes real for most people in my my line of work, or what I come out of. And I think that makes so much sense, to have something like that for direct support professionals, that if it truly is a specialized professional field, it's not like you can show up and go through, the 20 hours of compliance trainings and be good at the job.
You can't, and I'll use my son as an example. In order for us to find a school that worked for him, he went through 4 schools. So 3 public and 1 private, right? and he's in a public school, but he is actually in a more rural area. It's a fantastic high school. I spent time with them, and I told them as much time as you want to spend, but all the way down to, Nick operates in this particular wavelength. And once you get that wavelength down, you will know if he's going to escalate, because it's going to be one step too far this way or one step. And I got a call back from one of the principals. He's like, Jay, you have no idea. That was so incredibly helpful. We de-escalated him twice this week. And this is when he first transferred to the school. He goes, man, that the point is, as a parent, I mean, I got intimate knowledge, but that doesn't mean that somebody else, whether it's an aide or a school teacher, or when he gets ready to move into his own place in an ISL, that doesn't mean that they're going to know that, right? But if they have the proper training, they're going to know what questions to ask, right? What are the triggers? What excites him? What gets him really frustrated, right? What are some of the things that he really enjoys to do that are going to make him, you know, have just an absolutely wonderful, great day? What happens if he has a bad day at work? How do we deal with it, right? Anyway, I'll stop there.
No, that I love it. I love everything about what you just said, because until someone has a certain level of expertise, you don't even know what you don't know. So they wouldn't even know the right questions to begin to ask. Whereas someone that's, been there, done that, and has the T-shirt and the scars and has lived through the blood, sweat, and tears to prove it, they know the kinds of things to ask. And more than just asking the questions, it's like there's a depth of knowledge that doesn't happen anyway except through experience, but hopefully framed in a proper way where the experience is actually like helping direct them towards, how am I trying to put this? Where they're truly becoming an expert in their field.
Yeah, and look, we're all perceptive, right? We walk into a room, we get good feelings about certain people, and we get other feelings about other people who are in the room. What are we naturally going to do? We're going to steer away from people we don't get a positive feeling, right? Just from observation. What I've learned working, obviously with my son, but also working with dozens and dozens of other individuals, that have unique abilities, simply put, they have the same, right? And with DSPs, obviously I managed a crew of, I don't know, 130 DSPs, when we were fully staffed. That wasn't very often, by the way, but,
Yeah.
the reality of it is, you can tell really quickly when, clients, individuals are really uncomfortable with their DSP, right? And that again comes down to, here's why we're here. This is what this looks like, right? And let's help you better understand what it is. And you're probably going to ask, but this is a perfect opportunity to share a success story.
Yes, I want to hear it.
If that's okay.
Bring it. Yes.
So one of my newer clients is a statewide provider, and we're still in the scale up, but these guys are very progressive. I love working with them. I'll just give you this up front. When I called on them and they said, yeah, come on over, talk about this apprenticeship thing. So I did. Then their COO pulled me off to the side and he just looked me square in the face. He goes, Jay, I'm not telling you that I believe in what you're saying at all. I was like, oh man. But here's the point. He's such a cool guy. He goes, look, every day I have 90 openings. It's been that way for 5 years. I look out a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. If something doesn't change, it's only going to compound and get worse. So here's the deal. The reason you're here is I want my staff to understand that, but also understand that there are solutions that can make a difference, right? The staff came up with the point, yeah, we want to go ahead. We want to do the apprenticeship for the DSPs. Fast forward to the first graduation. They had 4 people graduate. None of them had less than 7 years experience as DSPs. Okay. So these are people who they've beat all the odds. And to a person, they were like, yeah, I wasn't sure I actually wanted to do this, but the opportunity was there, opportunity to earn a credential. I kind of excited about that. And that's where the whole conversation changed. This one guy comes up, he goes, "Look, I've been here for 10 years. All I do are behavioral homes. All I have are folks who have trouble handling their own behaviors." He goes, "This program," and I didn't write him a check or pay him to say this, just so you know.
Okay.
He said, "If you guys don't implement this corporate wide, you've got a problem." He goes, "Because I've been at this for 10 years. I thought I knew how to deal with the situation. This program not only has changed how I perceive what I do, when I do it, and how to do it, but it's changed the life in the home." He goes, "My escalations in the home have gone down like 50 to 60% because I now know what to look for before things actually happen. I'm looking at the room with a different set of eyes. I'm hearing things from a different perspective because of the training, because of the mentorship. This has changed not only my life, but it's changed the life of my client." Okay. Those are the types of things that I look at. Is apprenticeship for everybody, Nate? No, it's not. It's not for everybody. Let's be upfront. It's not a silver bullet. Is it a collaborative program? It sure is a collaborative program. There's opportunities. Have we had any of those opportunities to work with other education providers beside Relias? No, we haven't. Are we looking for them? Sure, we are. We definitely are. But the reality of it is that's exactly I was on a call with the same organization, COO, and this was a statewide call. And that is exactly what he said. He goes, "Come to one of our graduations and you decide if this is worth the time and the investment that you put in it."
Mhm.
And that,
Hmm.
to me, that's the best endorsement you can possibly get. And now, granted, that's one DSP out of the thousands that we have. But like I said, as we continue to grow and expand and do that, man, those positive scenarios, people look at that and go, "I want to be a part of that."
Yeah, and that's cool because as you're sharing about it, my mind when I hear apprenticeship immediately goes to someone that's either younger or newer. Just sort of I would naturally think of that. So to hear that this isn't just for new staff, but this is also for existing staff.
It's a great way. It's a great way to invest in existing staff. They have to be willing to do it. They have to understand what it is, but it's a great way to invest in them. And kind of shifting gears to the financial side of things, what are we really doing when we invest in that 7 year, 5 year, 6 year, 8 year, 10 year employee who's like, "Yeah, I'd like to do this." What are we really doing, and what is the real benefit back to the provider organization? We're protecting institutional knowledge. We're protecting that expertise, and we're removing one person from the exit sign and putting them on the bench of incredible talent that we have. So, it's a tool that can be used both offensively as well as defensively if you think about it from that perspective.
Absolutely. Well, and most providers, they could tell you some of the names of the people that are the backbone of the organization. And it's those DSPs that are long tenured that are handling the more complex behavioral situations or the more complex medical situations, and they just take it in stride. And
Yep.
so to invest in them not that it officially locks them in per se
No.
from a contractual standpoint, but at the same time, I mean, it kind of is very likely to have that impact because they've just had this massive investment into their own professional growth
Mhm.
that if they weren't already, if they were thinking about leaving at any point, they're, I would say, going to be much more likely to want to stick around for a place that invests in them like that.
Yeah, I have one of my organizations. They're a state-run ISL. Um, and they only do their tenured people, basically. So if you've got 2-3 years of experience, it's to a point now where they actually have a mini application that they actually have to fill out. They only run certain number of slots per year. And so they have a waiting list of like 36 apprentices that are waiting in line for their opportunity to engage in the program. Now that may be good for one organization. I have other organizations that do 100%. I think really the point here is this is designed for people, who want to directly engage in it, and they, as individual DSPs, they want to continue to grow. We've had others that have said, I've been at it for 25 years, Jay. I just, I'm not interested in it. And as long as the employer is cool with that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they don't have to do it, right?
Right, sure.
They don't have to, because, it is what it is. But anyway.
So what's one of the biggest misconceptions that you hear from providers as they're considering implementing an apprenticeship program?
Oh, misconception. Well, I think first is what kind of what kind of, I guess, the first thing that really comes out is the fact that most of them really don't understand what apprenticeship is. Apprenticeship is one of those words that gets used all the time. So they go, oh, well, we do internship programs. And I'm like, we do volunteer programs. I said, no, that's not an apprenticeship, right? What we do here in the state of Missouri for this program, this is a registered apprenticeship through the Department of Labor. And it has all the structure, all the benefits, all that kind of stuff is really wrapped in. So I think first and foremost is really the misconception of what is it, right? And once they understand, that's why I told you I don't take a sales approach, I take an education approach, because it's kind of layers of knowledge of what does this mean? How does it impact the culture? How does it impact our training people? What does this look like for us? They have to be able to sort through that. And I want them, coming from the provider space as well, I want them to have that opportunity. I'm not commission paid, right? I'm not commission paid. So I would much rather you understand it before you engage in it. So I think number one is really just understanding, what is it, right? What are the potential benefits back? And then what are the costs? What does it really mean to us? And what is that commitment level? Those are the primary kind of misconceptions of what it is.
Yeah.
Um, does that answer the question? Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then what kind of and I know with a newer program, I'm not sure how much like firm data you have on this, but do you have any kind of an expected ROI that providers can expect? And I know I'm going to put you on the spot with that question, but
I don't mind being put on the spot. No, I don't. And there's there's actually good reason for that, because the way it's structured, and all states are going to be different, right? And to clarify one point, this apprenticeship, this can be sponsored. That's the leadership role, if you will. It can be sponsored by a state agency without question. But guess what? It can also be provided by, a provider organization. If you had a large statewide organization, you guys can do this, on your own. Or if you had a group of smaller providers that wanted to come together. So the way that it's structured here in Missouri is our Department of Mental Health actually provides and pays for the education component, right? So that we use Relias, which is a national company. It's all online training. So that's really paid for the organizations. And then, from a statewide perspective, obviously, post-pandemic, there was a lot of ARPA funds. There was a lot of that was going on. So we had some pretty healthy reimbursement rate changes to the positive for a number of years. Now, like most states out there, that ultimately has come to an end with budget
yeah.
changes, and it's just a cycle. But there is no direct cost to the providers, in terms of them writing a check. There is no direct cost for them to participate in this program. What we do tell them, I'm paid for by the state of Missouri on contract with ICI. And that is my job. I support them. And that is one of the key features of why our success continues. Right person, right place, right time, if you will. I understand it. I understand their perspective. But at the end of the day, There are costs internally. There's some data sharing that takes place. There's, admin time, right? They've got to be entered into the system. There's data records that have to be captured and put into the system, right? So there are some, there are costs that are there, but that's why I can't give you an ROI from that perspective, is because there's no investment on
Yeah, it's
on their side of it.
okay, sure. No, yeah, if you get the seeds if the seeds were free and then you get some harvest from those seeds that you planted, how much ROI is that? Because you didn't have to pay for the seeds. I mean, it's not exactly the perfect metaphor, but yeah.
No, it's close enough. There's cost in everything. I'm very transparent about that. I mean,
Sure.
there's admin costs, there's
Sure, it's going to
everything
take,
else.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
But
Now,
so then that kind of leads right to another question. If, I mean, I'm in PA, the, listeners spread out pretty well across the country. If someone's in a different state
uh
and they're really resonating with what you're saying today, they're like, yes, this makes a lot of sense to me. Do you guys contract with specific agencies, or is there someone in their state that they should be like looking for? Like, where's the J Gibbs in, California or
as
Mississippi or wherever?
as my mother put it, there's only one of me, and she was grateful for that.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm
I-
glad your mom was grateful for that.
Yeah, just one, Jay. Um, the way that basically works is this is, and we have done a number of these already. We have other state organizations, not state agencies, but state organizations contact us. We typically put together a basic scope of work. It's not hugely expensive. We kind of lay out just the basic framework, and usually we'll spend up to 4 hours just talking with people and trying to get a clear understanding of where they're at, what do they want to do, what are their goals, right? That typically then just leads to a scope of work, right? And it's like, okay, here's what we want to have happen over the next, 6, 9, 12 months. This is where we want to end up. And maybe that's working with, the state agency. Maybe that is working with the state level organization. Maybe that's working directly with a large provider. And so, yeah, that would be directly with ICI, from that perspective. And through those discussions, the biggest thing I can tell you, people ask, why are you guys scaling and successful when others that they're aware of may be really challenged with it? And I will tell you, number one is commitment by the state level leadership, and commitment by the stakeholder group, their leadership. Those are the CEOs of the provider organizations that are part of that stakeholder group. Having a high degree of commitment is critical. Number two is, having the right person to help you navigate and really set a solid foundation. And that honestly, that would be me, helping you just navigate, right? If you've got somebody who really knows apprenticeship well, awesome. Because in 6 to 12 months, I can have them completely up to speed, learning the innuendos of what this really is and how it actually works and what it looks like, right? Um, and I think third is just understanding, don't create anything in a vacuum, right? Don't go into this, if we build it, they're going to come. That doesn't happen. You can't do it in a vacuum. And we continue to manage this program here, in a very open environment. We are we have COPs, community of practice calls every other month, and we're bringing all those people together. What can we do? What do we need to improve? We've built a large toolkit to help new people coming on board. We have organizations that have done things, customized things on their own. They're like, share it with everybody. Which, that's unique when you've got potentially competing people in the room, and they're like, share it. Everybody, if they can get value from it, they get value from it. So am I answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. So so right now you're not set up to like kind of export this directly to a large provider organization, but it could be done. Am I understanding you right?
No, we are at the we're at the export stage.
Oh, good. So you are ready. You're ready for them to.
Yeah, we this just know this. The program turns 4 years old. We know how it needs to be done right. We understand where the pitfalls are because we've also skinned our knees a number of times over that 3 year period. And if you didn't think that I was transparent before, you know that now, right? Because I want people to understand, hey, you know, we know how not to do it, but we also understand how to do it to be successful, and what are some of, truly, not setting the apprenticeship aside, but when you're doing a project like this, there are some non-negotiables in there that are going to help really propel something from, either a statewide provider perspective or even a state agency who wants to launch this. There's knowledge that we have because we've already walked down this path, and sometimes 2 or 3 times, in order to figure out how does this land and how do we make it land even better. And so, yeah, we are most certainly at that point where, if people are interested, it's like, just call, right? Send me an email. And I have conversations all the time with people here in Missouri, and I have conversations with people from around the country as well. It doesn't mean that all of them are going to do it, right? Because there's still a lot of people looking for the silver bullet. But I just use the Teddy Roosevelt, saying, nothing good comes easy,
Mhm.
because it doesn't. It does take work, but the real point to it is, there are people out there like me, who are willing to dedicate the time, um, to see this become a much broader success.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm been really fascinated by the things you've shared today. And I think that I imagine for listeners, there's a lot of food for thought of, what's possible. From what you were just saying a moment ago, well, first of all, we'll put if you're okay with that, I'll put your contact in the show notes. So
Yeah,
we'll do that.
yeah,
But then, it sounds like the collaboration at the multiple different levels has been really crucial to this taking off, and having it tied into Department of Labor there. That sounds like that's been a really significant thing. I would think that would reduce the barriers to entry, in a sense, by
yeah.
having that connection. And yeah, no, this is very exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's why people need to call, because all states have, at 30,000 feet flying over, they all have similar concerns. But when you get down to the ground level, all state agencies, they have different things that they're pushing, and different ideas about where they want to go. The point is, have the conversation, because this may be a really good solution for you, but it also may not be, right? Based on where you're at. And that's where like I said, I'm really transparent with people. It's like, you're ready for this, or get a few things lined up, and then this could be a really, really good solution for you.
Yeah, that's great. I think I just want to ask one more question about this, and that would be, if someone starts to try to implement some of this, and maybe I don't even know if this has happened per se,
Mhm.
but if an organization is trying to implement some of this, but it's not necessarily set up with a partnership with the Department of Labor,
Mhm.
what's one of the most likely spots that would be a stuck spot, or you know a hazard that they should be on the lookout for if they're starting to get serious? And of course, ideally, they're talking to you about it, or talking to someone that has a lot of experience. But what are some of what's a hazard they should be looking for?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of organizations, that I have actually talked to, honestly, and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know the right questions to ask because they don't know what they don't know. I had a call with a really large provider 2 years ago. Actually knew head of HR, actually knew head of program management, had a great conversation with him. But this is how the initial part of that call went: is, how are you doing? Talking to HR. Well, I'm doing fine. I said, everything's going well. She said, yeah, I mean, every day I'm pulling my hair out. I go home and I hope that, things will change the next day. And then the next day I get there and I'm pulling my hair out again. Okay. So, although, the truth of it is, um, when we had the discussion, that was at the beginning of the call. When I was talking to them about what this apprenticeship was and what it looks like at the end, her comment to me was, "You're asking me to do more work, and I'm already doing everything that you're doing." Okay. So there's even that level of disconnect in that, look, the definition of insanity, and this may be a little harsh, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, right? And hoping for different results. And it's like, you're not going to get different results, right? And I did share with her, I said, there is one thing you're not doing, and it's the mentoring piece. And I said, and the program manager in that particular call actually said, yeah, he's right. We're not. And
Yeah.
and that's the pitfall. Here's the thing is I think, we kind of actually already covered this, is if you put an education program in place, that's great because you're elevating the skill set. But you have to ask yourself, how much of that are they retaining? How much of that are they actually applying when they're actually on the job, right? How often are they actually practicing the new de-escalation techniques, whatever it may be? Until you actually build a system around that, so that not only do they know, I don't just have to pass each of these tests, I actually have to use this in practice each and every day while I'm on the job. Until they understand that, they're going to be like you and I when we're like, okay, yes, true, false, no. Oh, answer C, yes, okay. And then boom, we're right back on the job, right? Is that going to have the kind of lasting change and impact that we want to have? And that's where what I do, right? In terms of apprenticeship. And that's where, in a lot of ways, NADSP is the same way. They have a very consistent approach. They have a written aspect. They have, an individual that's going to be reviewing written responses. Why did you answer this way? What do you think? What it does is it's functionally creating an environment where that person has to not just process to answer a question, but actually process the knowledge to a point where they can then use that knowledge and practice it each and every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to show up in real time
Yes, it does.
in the real situations.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love how you emphasize that. And I think that's really important to differentiate that it's not just training. It's not just learning about something, but there's all those hours in the field, and that the mentorship piece is absolutely vital for it to work. Okay, well that's great. Well, this has been wonderful, Jay. I really appreciate you sharing from your expertise. I hope I imagine it has actually piqued the interest of listeners. Um, Even just knowing that this exists, if they didn't know that it exists, let alone its potential application in their situation. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely put up your email address, and if you want a website or whatever, I'll put all that in the show notes.
Okay. I appreciate it, Nate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, I just learned a whole lot, and I hope you did too. Did you remember him saying that there's a waiting list of more than 30 apprentices at one organization just waiting for their slot? Listen, when staff are lined up wanting to invest in their growth, that's not just a program, that's a culture shift. Well, as far as an action move, I always leave you with something that you could do right away. This one's quite straightforward. Reach out to JW. No, seriously, he said himself, just call, just reach out to him. Even if you're not ready to implement or not even sure if you're going to want to seriously consider it or not, having a 30-minute conversation will clarify so much. And where better to learn about the whole apprenticeship process than from someone that's successfully seeing it implemented across many organizations. So his contact info is in the show notes. Yeah, just reach out to him. Lastly, I always try to remind you, we've got a free resource for you. Most supervisors unintentionally contribute to staff burnout and turnover because they were never trained in actually how to manage or lead people. I have a free PDF that outlines 7 warning signs that this is happening at your organization and then says what to do. What's the antidote for each one of these warning signs? You can pick up your free copy. It's at iddleader.com/burnout. Well, until next time, here's to you. Keep up the amazing work.